Howdy folks, Craig Lavati here with the Houston Museum of Natural Science and the Beyond Bones podcast. Today we are talking to Colonel Nicole Mann from NASA. Colonel Nicole Mann is a part of the Artemis program that will soon, in a few years, go to the moon. It's possible that Colonel Nicole Mann will be the first woman on the moon and also the first Marine on the moon. It's a great chat. Check it out. Howdy folks, Craig Lavati here with the Houston Museum of Natural Science and the Beyond Bones podcast, now available on most of your podcasting platforms, including that one, and maybe that one soon, and YouTube. So you're watching us on YouTube. Thanks for that. Watch the entire episode, and it increases our views and our clicks. That's a good thing. We're a science museum. We need all the love. Today's episode, well, I always say this, every episode is special. Every episode is like my baby. It's like me and Johnny's baby. And when Kat's here too, Johnny's also the mama of the podcast. But today we are talking to someone who one day soon will be one of the most famous people on Earth, Colonel Nicole Mann. How are you doing?
I am excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Craig.
Thank you for having us. And if you don't know about Colonel Nicole Mann, she's a NASA astronaut and a part of the Artemis program. And she could be one day walking around on the moon as a part of the Artemis program. And we are just delighted to have you. I was reading all of my notes on you last night, and I was like, holy geez, this is going to be like talking to like Neil Armstrong like a few years before Apollo 11. So no pressure, Colonel Mann. And also thank you for your service. I know you're an Iraq war veteran, and you're currently obviously a colonel, so you are still in the Marine Corps.
Yes, still active duty.
There you go. Like I said, 1,000 years ago, I was in the Marines for a very short period. And so I have all my love and all my reverence for our enlisted and our officers, because I was just enlisted and you're an officer. So,
well, Semper Fi, Marine.
Thank you very much. So Nicole, Colonel Mann, sorry. I'm kind of like starstruck at this point.
Yeah, starstruck, exactly.
Johnny, last week we had on a woman who climbed Mount Everest. Mm-hmm. And this week we have on somebody who's been in space for an extended period of time and somebody who's possibly going to be on the moon. What's that like, Johnny, for you as the producer of the show?
I have always been deeply fascinated with astronomy and space and the Apollo program and NASA. And I am also very much Star Trek to have Colonel Mann on here. I feel this is one of the coolest. Like, I have a radio show here in Houston too. I almost want to get you on for my own personal radio show, but we could talk about that later. I am just I am very blessed to be in this position to be able to speak to you. So thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to speak to you guys. I mean, I love going up to the museum with my own kiddo. And so anytime we can kind of spread the news on what we're doing in exploration and get everybody excited about it, it's all good.
So tell us about Artemis. We have a new show that's premiering soon in the Burke-Baker Planetarium at the museum, all about the Artemis program. But from, I was going to say, you're kind of like the boots on the ground, so to speak. And what should people know about the Artemis program that are out there right now?
People should know that it is happening very soon, which is the most exciting part. I mean, you can imagine this effort is just incredible, and it's taken a long time, a lot of people, a lot of cooperation to make this happen. But us going to the moon, it's different than Apollo. Yeah. I think that's people's kind of first question. Well, why are we going back to the moon? We already did that. This is totally different. We are going to the moon to have sustained human presence on the moon. I mean, this is like what you dreamed about as a kid, habitats on the moon, a gateway orbiting around the moon. And really, this allows us to develop that technology and gather the resources we need to go to be not Earth dependent in space and continue exploration out to Mars. It's happening right now. It's like we're living the dream. So exciting.
I was going to say,
go ahead, Johnny.
I'm sorry, just that the setting up a moon base. I mean, it sounds so like 60s sci-fi to say.
Sounds so sci-fi, doesn't it? No, this is reality. Right?
Exactly, it's science reality. And you mentioned as like being kind of a stepping stone to Mars. That if we plan to go to Mars, then not colonizing so much, but having a permanent presence on the moon is kind of critical to that. So I'm thrilled that you mentioned that, and I'm thrilled that Artemis is going to get us one step closer to Mars. I also think being on the moon in a permanent capacity is amazing. My 99-year-old grandmother kind of questioned. She's like, "Why are we going back to the moon? Haven't we been there?" I was like, "No, Bima, we're going to have people basically staying on the moon. This is a huge step for mankind. It's not just to go pick up some rocks and come back real quick to say plant a flag, say we've been there. It's furthering mankind's expansion into outer space. It's a really big deal. It's really cool. So I'm very excited about it.
Absolutely. You nailed it, Johnny. That's exactly what we're doing. And it's such a different effort than in the past. I mean, what we did with Apollo was incredible, just proving that technology and gathering those samples. But now we're really expanding our mission.
Mm-hmm.
What's a day-to-day like for you, Colonel Mann?
It's awesome.
Obviously, it has to be, yeah.
Not predictable. We train for, a lot having to do with living and operating in space, not only from just how do you function in that environment, all the technical pieces of it, but we also support all the current ongoing operations in space, the astronauts that are currently on board the International Space Station. So it's a lot of training, and sometimes it's more of a technical aspect, and sometimes it's just figuring out how you're going to live and work with this group of people in a small, confined space.
Is there, just real quick, is there any, I know there's specialized training for all sorts of different missions. Can you think of one area of training for Artemis that is uniquely different than, say, going to the space station?
Absolutely. So the moon, doing a moonwalk, that is going to be the most unique part of it. Of course, we do spacewalks on the International Space Station, but on the moon, you're working in an environment that is very dangerous, and you're operating in a suit. And not only do you need to know the capabilities and limitations of your suit, but also of you as a human when you're working hard out there. And it's going to be a combination of exploration with robotics and rovers, and it's going to be building habitats, and it will be still collecting samples and doing a lot of science. And so there's this whole world as a Marine. I was not trained to do that initially. And so NASA needs to train all the astronauts that are going to the moon in those specific operations.
What happens when you have an itch in the spacesuit?
Oh, you just ignore it. It's just like standing in formation at attention. You can't itch it. You just,
Yeah, if you itch, you get in trouble. Like somebody's going to see. You don't think somebody's going to see, Johnny. Somebody's going to see. Somebody's watching you. There's eyeballs everywhere.
I've always been curious. I would imagine that was probably part of the training, is you just really mentally learn how to push past it.
You do. And you're so focused. You train for so many years and so long. And you're just absolutely focused on that mission, and really everything else, like all those distractions, you learn to just filter those out.
So that probably makes you really good, like in traffic too, where you're just kind of like, if you're in traffic, you could probably just handle no matter what, because you've dealt with so many stressful things.
There's a little bit of traffic in Houston, so yes, I agree.
Well, because I get you're based down south, right near Johnson Space Center.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
So yeah, you deal with 45 traffic. That's going to be a lot different than going to the moon. I would hope so.
A little different, yeah.
I think every astronaut who lives, Clear Lake and around there should have a helipad in their backyard. Just take them right to the Space Center. Don't just skip it all.
There's no reason for y'all to be in traffic. You should not have to. We should build like some sort of super tollway for y'all.
Mm-hmm. Or a drone or something.
Regular traffic, just deep breaths. Get through it. You're good.
Yeah. And you also, I read about, you have a young son too, and that's just got to be amazing as well for him to know that his mother will one day possibly do something so amazing too.
Who's already done amazing things also.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, your resume is ridiculous. And What's beyond the moon, honestly? What do you think? Are we trying to master that first, or are we, like, personally, what are you looking forward to after that? Have you even looked that far?
To be honest, not really, right? I see this as it's kind of baby steps. And so I'm actually scheduled to launch to the International Space Station this September. So focusing on specifically on that mission right now. Then returning from that, hopefully a dedicated effort towards Artemis and whatever capacity that would be. And then really there's the first 3 missions. So Artemis 1 will launch this year. That's going around the moon. It's uncrewed spaceflight, testing out all the systems. Artemis 2 will have astronauts on board. It will not land on the moon, just go around the moon, but farther than we've ever taken humans away from Earth before. And then Artemis 3 will be the mission where we actually have boots on the surface of the moon. So there's a lot of work to be done between now and then, and it's really kind of this building process of identifying those techniques and the operations, how we're going to do that, learning from the missions, modifying, and then training, preparing to go on the next mission.
What are some specific experiments that we're looking to do on the moon as far as, biological, maybe growing food and things like that? Is that part of the preparation and training?
Absolutely. Anywhere from growing food and being able to sustain humans on the surface of the moon. How does the environment affect us? How do we protect ourselves from radiation? That's one big threat once we get outside the Van Allen belt. And so then a habitat, how is that going to operate and function on the moon? What are the resources then from the moon that we can gather so that when we are living on the moon or preparing to go to Mars, we don't have to launch all of this from planet Earth, which is very costly. So how can we break down, those efficiencies so that we can sustain it without having to be reliant on the Earth as much?
It's amazing.
What's on the moon right now that we're hoping to resource out?
Water's the biggest thing,
Okay.
right? So we can make propellant for rockets out of water. It has those chemical elements that we can break that apart and use those resources. So really, these missions under Artemis, and originally we're looking at the South Pole, where we know there is water there, or in the form of ice, and so that's our main focus right now.
And
so you guys are going to be going to the South Pole of the moon.
Yes, that's what we are, the area that we're targeting.
Okay, so not where Neil and all those guys went for the first time.
No, and actually all the Apollo missions, they landed somewhere a little bit different because they were looking at the geology of the moon and trying to gather samples. And so our focus of effort, certainly there may be other landing sites that are of interest, but initially the South Pole is where we think we're going to find those resources.
I'm blanking out on the term for it. I know that I would imagine that since the moon lacks so much atmosphere, that solar radiation, obviously it's going to be a challenge for humans to cope with. But also it means that, setting up solar panels on the moon and the lack of wind and everything, you're going to get a lot of efficiency out of these solar panels versus like commercial solar panels. My whole studio is powered by solar panels I have on the patio. But so you're talking about finding water on the South Pole. What's the term? Separating the hydrogen and oxygen. I want to say electrolysis. I know that's not the right term, but is that kind of how, if you found a big enough supply of ice and water on the moon, is that kind of how it would go, by using solar panels and electricity to kind of separate the hydrogen and oxygen on the moon to make fuel?
Right. And, the technical piece of that, I don't want to misspeak on what that term is, but exactly, that's right. We have, the capabilities already to do that type of operation. And so that's what we're looking at, and how we use that energy, developing, the solar energy component that you spoke of. That part is amazing too, because not only does it allow us to do these operations on the moon, but also this technology development benefits humans back here on Earth. And so it's really connected. Not only is it living on the moon and technology to get us to Mars, but we also turn around and look at our home planet and say, okay, how can we apply this efficiency? A great example is on Space Station, we recycle all of the water that's on Space Station. We reclaim like 97% of the water. Wow. And we're able to clean that water and then, sweat and everything that is reclaimed. And some of that technology is now used on Earth in an area where perhaps there's a natural disaster and there's not safe water, right? We have that technology. So that piece of it's really cool too.
And that's been the whole purpose of space exploration. One of the huge benefits of space exploration, things like Velcro and different glues and all sorts of things that you figure out and work in space, that microwaves and things that you bring down to Earth and improve the lives of Earthlings. And one of the coolest things I think also is when Artemis figures out how to grow plants on the moon, we'll also learn what the most kind of robust and resilient plants are on Earth, so that if anything happens to us here on Earth, we know, okay, let's focus on corn or cabbage or whatever. Or there might be an outlier, some sort of being that's super resilient that we had no idea. That Artemis is going to figure all these things out or help us expand our human knowledge and benefit life on Earth. And I think that's the key component. Like I was telling my grandmother, one of the key components of space exploration isn't just so that we can go plant flags, it's that we can make life better on Earth as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to look at the big picture of it. And it's not just an exploration mission. It's really exploration to expand life for all of humankind. And this is a global effort too, right? It's not just the United States. We have partners around the world. And so you can also see the benefit in uniting other countries to work towards this common goal. It's really, I think, a shift that we need to have as a human species. We know now that we can't just, survive on Earth and use all the resources any way that we like, right? We have to protect our planet and we have to think long-term for those future generations.
And obviously too, the big difference from Apollo to now to Artemis is that, there's so many people are working in the private sector and the private fields to get us up there too. When you go up to the ISS, you're going to be aboard a SpaceX rocket.
Right. So I'll fly on Crew Dragon and we'll launch on a Falcon 9 rocket. And so you're seeing really the commercialization of low Earth orbit. It's so exciting. We already saw with the Inspiration mission, we had some civilian astronauts that went to space, Polaris missions coming up. Axiom is launching a former astronaut and some civilian astronauts to the International Space Station. So, you nailed it when you said, the words can't come out of my brain to describe it. I mean, I can, as a Marine, as a fighter pilot, I can only do so much to describe it. But think about if you have a journalist or an artist or a poet that's in space and they're able to articulate how important the work that we're doing, and they're able to look back on planet Earth and they're able to communicate that to the world, how fragile our planet is and everything that we need to do to take care of it and the technology development, how that benefits humans on Earth. I think that's going to make a big difference. So it's not only, space tourism that we're seeing, but it's really going to open up low Earth orbit to the rest of the world.
I really do hope that space tourism there's, what am I trying to say here? That it doesn't, not that it would become cheap or become, like an afterthought, but I really do hope that the people who do go, up there for a small period of time and then they come back renewed and refreshed, and they have a different idea of exactly what we're dealing with here on Earth. I really do hope that.
I do as well. And I think that's the good assumption that everybody has. And they're also doing a lot of science when they go on these missions as well. So it's not just looking out the window, even for the civilian astronauts. They're doing a lot of work there. They
probably have sensors on them as well, so they can see just like what the regular Joe or, what they deal with when they go up there, because I'm assuming eventually you're going to be having people who aren't as in good a shape as you are going up there. And so we need to see what those folks' needs would be. Like, I don't think I couldn't go up there right now. I would be vomiting constantly, probably. So I would assume that it's also to get everything ready for space tourism as well. I guess tourism, to me, it's like almost like a dirty word when it comes to that. Like whenever I hear space tourism, it almost makes it sound like you're not going to space. It sounds very cheap. I don't know why.
Right somewhere.
Yeah, it's just like you're going to Hawaii or you're going, to Australia or something. You're not actually, leaving the planet.
And I think for a lot of people, and a negative connotation they might conjure up is like thinking of, just making an example here, like an American tourist at an ancient castle throwing down a Whataburger bag or something like that. Like that's not what we're talking about here.
That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
No, but that's kind of, I don't think that's a huge pervasive perception, But I think there's some people that think, not space exploration, but commercialized space, tours and things like that. Oh, it's just going to be humans going up and making a mess. That's really not what it's about. It's kind of like the zoo. I know this is kind of a weird extrapolation, but the theory behind a zoo is see it, save it. Like see them, save them. If the people can't see the different species of animals around the world, then they're not going to care enough. If they can't see their cute, cuddly faces, why would they care to donate or help save lives or help preserve elephants or deal with poachers and everything like that? I think space tourism is going to do the same thing for science and space exploration.
Yeah.
Once you start sending people up there and taking Instagram photos of, we have to save this planet, we have to protect this, look at this beautiful marble from up here, look at this different perspective. Once more people, I think more average people with the funds to do so can share that different perspective, not from a keyboard warrior from down here at sea level, but from 100 miles above the earth, whatever the edge of earth is, or space, 60 miles, 100 kilometers, whatever it is. That different perspective is going to benefit humanity as the whole, I think.
Absolutely. And I think giving that perspective to the younger generation too, right? I mean, it's one thing for our generation, hopefully we can make a change, but I think if you can influence this younger generation right now, give them that perspective, just that you spoke of, how important it is to take care of our planet, get them excited about math and science, keep them engaged. That is going to then benefit generations down the road. It's developing, humankind now with that different perspective, giving them this idea that low Earth orbit is a possibility. I can go to space. I can be an astronaut. I can be a scientist and conduct my science in space, or perhaps on the moon. It's just exciting.
I always have this it's probably a corny thought, but when I walk through the museum during the week and I see a group of like 100 kids on a field trip, I always think, one of those kids is possibly going to be the kid that's going to cure something down the line. One of those kids is probably going to be, walking on the moon with you. Somebody's kid, one of these kids is going to be doing something great, and that makes me feel really special. And really, it's a good feeling to know that there's people out there who are working towards a bigger goal than the goals that we have here on Earth.
And that so many more little girls are being inspired by it. I mean, we all the advancements we've made over the past, since World War II, realistically speaking, it's kind of been like with one arm tied behind our back, because it's been so obviously dominated by one segment of the population. I am just thrilled that little boys, obviously, and little girls too now are just even more inspired, because wow, we got the pool of minds is so much greater now, that the acceleration of space travel and science and like the idea that we could cure cancer is actually even more feasible now, because we have all the players in the game, boys, girls, everybody from different nationalities, different races, different parts of the world, getting engaged in STEM and STEAM and everything like that. So through the inspiration of space travel and through the inspiration of Colonel Mann, it's a wonderful time. I know there's a lot of things that make us think it's a kind of a dark time to be alive, but really it's a very exciting time to be alive right now, I think.
I agree. It's an incredible time. And of course we have our challenges, but we're resilient and we are going to push through those. And I think focusing on a common goal, such as Artemis and exploration and inspiring that young generation, that's what we need to continue to evolve as a human species. And that's a big, important part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Colonel Mann, hopefully the next time we talk, well, I hope we talk soon again, but next time we need to schedule right now, if we can, with your NASA team, a Zoom call from the ISS.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can make that happen.
Yep. I believe we can. Yes, we are able to. We have that technology, and I'll put in the request.
I'll forgive some audio issues if you're doing it from space. I'll let it slide.
And then later on, we'll do the first Zoom from the moon.
There you go. First Zoom from the moon. I like it.
Colonel Mann, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to talk to us here on Beyond Bones. Our co-host Kat Havens is going to be really bummed out. She's going to be kicking rocks that she didn't get to do this interview with us this morning.
She can do it from the space station, though.
There you go. That's right. Yeah, Kat will be around for the space station Zoom with Colonel Mann. Colonel Mann, thank you. Our best to you and yours, and good luck out there.
Great, Johnny. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And if you want to learn more about Artemis, be sure to check out our new show, Forward to the Moon, now playing at the Burke Baker Planetarium.
Within a single lifetime, we've progressed from the first space rocket launch to using space technologies in our everyday lives. Both governments and private companies have taken up the challenge, launching near-Earth satellites for communication, imaging, and navigation. Low Earth orbit has become another part of the world economy. The International Space Station has been continually inhabited for over 20 years, hosting teams of astronauts who carry out research and trial new robotic technologies. Now we are ready to start a new chapter in the history of human endeavor, to take our first steps towards a permanent off-world presence. Forward to the moon.